all. In this video, we are going to be reviewing the writing process. Okay, so these are the different steps to the writing process. First step is to pre-write. In the pre-writing step, you brainstorm and you outline. Then you have the drafting process. Then you edit and revise after you draft, and then lastly, you publish. In the brainstorming step, this is where you actually choose your topic. A lot of times I'll give you topics from which to choose. So you choose your topic, you take out a piece of paper, and you write down everything that you can think of concerning that topic. Then you decide what it is based on what you've written, what it is you want to say about the topic. What is your perspective? What is your opinion? What is your angle? What is your position on the topic? This is your claim. This is what you want to say about the topic. So after you brainstorm, you should be able to come up with a working thesis. And these are some different ways that people brainstorm. Obviously, I don't make you submit this, right? But you can just simply make lists of things, or you can make a little map like this. Right, so after you have completed the brainstorming process, you've kind of decided on what your thesis is going to be, and you've kind of laid out some different ideas. It's time for you to do your outline, right? And you're all familiar with this because I have you turn this in as a grade, so I know that you're familiar with this, but we're going to review it really quickly anyway. So part of the outlining process, you want to make sure that you list your specific ideas for your introduction, and that includes your hook and your thesis, right? And here I put your working thesis because a lot of times your thesis is going to change as you write your paper, and that's okay. That's expected, but that's why I put working thesis here. The next thing you're going to want to do is list specific ideas for your body, the body of your essay, and it's important to keep in mind that each point in the body must directly relate to and support the thesis. If it doesn't, you either need to get rid of it or consider revising your thesis, which you'll do at the very end. You can decide that. The next thing you'll want to do is you'll want to list specific ideas for the conclusion. So some of the elements, you have to summarize your body, you have to restate your thesis, right? And you need to list specific ways to challenge your reader in thought or action, or list ideas for a so what factor. And we've talked about the so what factor. That's when you question so what, right? How are the ideas that I've posed in my paper significant to the reader, or culture, the times, etc.? And then the last thing you'll want to do in your outline is go back and see if you need to revise your thesis statement, because oftentimes you do. All right, this is a student example of an outline. If an outline is well done, writing your paper will be a breeze, right? So this student was very methodical in how they approached writing this outline. They took their introduction, they have their specific ideas, they have their opener, they have some extra information here, they have their thesis for their body paragraph. They're comparing traditional schooling to homeschooling, and they've chosen 3 different points of comparison. So they discuss social skills, academics, and motivation. And then they compare and contrast those. So social skills, comparing what students receive, traditional schooling versus homeschooling. And then academics, traditional versus homeschooling, and motivation of a student who is homeschooled versus a student who is in the traditional school system. So they take 3 different points and they're comparing those, right? And then for their conclusion, they're very, very detailed, right? they have this information here for their conclusion. So if you will take the time, I know that it takes time, but if you will take the time to develop a thoroughly detailed outline, writing your paper will be very, very simple. So please, if you don't do that already, take time to do that. I think that you'll be pleased with the overall grade that you receive at the end. So the next step, so after you've brainstormed and after you outline, you organize your ideas, the next part is drafting, right? And drafting simply means writing a first draft, right? That's what it means, write everything down. So in this section, or in this step of the writing process, you're simply taking the sections of your outline and you're making them into individual paragraphs, right? Making them into individual paragraphs that work, that flow. And then some people do this next part in the revising step. I like to do it whenever I'm actually drafting. You add your transitions between your ideas, or particularly between your paragraphs, to improve coherence and clarity. So make sure that you add in those transitional words and phrases if possible. Okay, the next step is revising and editing. I just put these two steps together because normally I revise and I edit at the same time. All right, so what you'll want to do first, or what I like to do first, is check for the basic elements in your draft. Do I have the basic elements in my introduction? Do I have my hook and my thesis? Do I have everything for my body? Do I have my 3 paragraphs at least, right? Do I have all of the elements that I'm supposed to have for my conclusion? Do I have these? So that's the first thing that I would check for. The second thing that I would do is check for coherence. The first thing I would ask myself is, do my main points directly relate to and support my thesis? If they do, good. If not, I need to stop. I need to go back. I may need to take out some paragraphs or some information that do not directly relate to my thesis. Next thing I want to make sure of, if I haven't done it in the drafting phase, or I may want to check it here, is do I have transitions that link my ideas, one idea to another? And I've talked about reverse outlining. I'm not going to go into detail about that here, but reverse outlining is a great way for you to go back to check your paper to make sure that it is coherent, your ideas are logical, they're organized, and your paper flows. So I would definitely suggest trying reverse outlining in this section of your paper while you're revising. So after I complete these steps, I would definitely check for clear and concise language. That's something that we reviewed. You should have reviewed earlier this week, was how to make your sentences more clear and concise by cutting redundant language, right? So that's the next thing I would check for. After I had done that, I would check for grammatical errors. Again, I would use the Microsoft Proofing tool if at all possible. I know that I keep harping on this. I told you at the beginning, Microsoft Word is not required for this class. It is not required. However, it will improve your writing significantly if you have access to this tool, and you do through your school, through all of your campuses should have Microsoft Word. I would take advantage of that. If you don't want to go to your campus, I'm sure that somebody you know has Microsoft Word. Again, you don't have to use it, but I would strongly suggest using it. I would strongly suggest using it because you're going to see a difference in your writing if you do. And I also have the tutorial for that as well, and I will put that on our assignment sheet this week along with the reverse outlining. So after I had checked for my basic essay elements and checked for coherence in my essay, after I checked for clear and concise language and grammatical errors, I would definitely check for formatting guidelines, right? So if this is supposed to be an MLA paper, are, do I have my paper double spaced? Do I have, all these different things in place? This is easy, and you don't want to lose points on something as simple as this. So make sure that you check for formatting guidelines. And then lastly, make sure that you take one last look at your rubric. Okay? Why reviewing the rubric is crucial. So for every essay that we have in this class, except for the diagnostic essay, you have a rubric. What is a rubric? It is a tool that your instructor uses to grade your writing. It's important to know what's on the rubric so that you can score well on your paper, but there is also another reason that you should adhere to the rubric. So, adhering to the rubric improves your overall score on your paper. That is a given, right? But it also improves your overall writing skills. How so? How can this improve my overall writing skills? Because it increases your awareness of the different aspects of your writing. So, I hope that you've come to see that in this class, it's not effective writing is not just about writing a sentence that's grammatically correct. There's structure, there's content, there's word choice, and of course there's grammar and usage. There are those things too, but there are all these different aspects of writing that you're looking at to determine if a piece of writing is effective or not. And if you don't know they exist, if you don't know these different aspects of writing exist, how can you develop those skills? You can't, right? So as you become more aware of the different aspects of writing, you'll be able to focus on and develop your skills regarding those aspects, right? And lastly, you have an assignment this week in which you are going to be grading an example essay. So you're going to pretend like you're the teacher and you are going to grade an example essay. I give you, it looks just like the comparison contrast essay rubric that I shared with you whenever you were writing your own comparison contrast essay. And you will read it and you will grade this student's paper, which is just an example student. It's not someone from our class. But I want you to take time and grade it and give this example paper the grade that you really think it deserves. Now, why am I having you grade a paper, right? What's the purpose in that? So it's not really, I don't care that you know how to grade a paper using a rubric. That's not the point of it. The point of it is that I really want you to learn to familiarize yourself with this criteria here. Organization, level of content, development, and the list goes on and on. But I want you to be thinking about those things. And as you grade this student's paper, thinking about organization, thinking about the level of content, thinking about the different criteria for the rubric, I'm hoping that this will help you become more aware of it in your own writing. Again, so the purpose is not so that you can learn to grade with a rubric. The purpose of you grading this example essay is to help you become more familiar with the criteria on the rubric, to help you become more familiar with these different aspects of writing. All right, thanks so much for watching.